Singapore Kerala Samajam was very old established institution for Malayalis, and at that time have about 5, 7, 8 branches all over. And at that time you can't distinguish from Malayalis from the whole Indian communities. I mean, I just came here only. I know few fellows. Those at that time I was working in, staying in Silat Road, and that is near to the Harbour Board at that time, present PSA. So I got a lot of friends from PSA Malayalis. PSA at that time it is called Singapore Harbour Board. Now it is known as PSA. They got a lot of Malayali friends, quite a number of them. So at that time we came to know here got a Kerala Samajam. Kerala Samajam got few branches, different locations. So we wanted to start a branch in Kampambaru. So Tanjambaka having one branch, so we wanted to start one in Kampambaru. So eventually
the withdrawal of the British and many of the Malayali communities, the breadwinners who were working for the shipyard, were quite badly affected because of the British withdrawal from Singapore. So the labour movement played a very proactive role with the ruling party under the leadership of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew to address this loss of job issue in Singapore, to try to create other options so that this unemployment rate can be reduced. And I think the trade unions' role together with the government has played a very positive, gave a positive angle.
Except me, all others are from the Harbour Board. I am the only outside man, you know. So it was a very nice time at that time. All, I mean, not Harbour Board, they have shift work, you know, daytime, night time, all they have to work. Mostly they call it tally clerks like that, you know, the ships. But that is another part, but they all helped to form.
My father came to Singapore during the Japanese wartime. They were all skilled labor, so they were brought to Singapore. So he came over to Singapore from Kerala, practically from Trivandrum, but the hometown was actually Wattapalam. So he came to Singapore. When he was in Singapore, he was in fact trying to adjust with the Singapore lifestyle. So he had the opportunity to work with PUB, because my father was a skilled tradesman mason. So he was working with PUB with some of all the other Malayali friends from Kerala. So the community that came, they were together most of the time, and so therefore when they came first, they were all staying in the PUB. PUB gave them the accommodation, because those days people cannot afford to buy a house, cannot rent a house. So PUB provided them with quarters, and this one was as Bukit Timah Filters, Bukit Timah 6 Milestone. That's where the Dunnan Road, where most of the Malayalis were staying and working for PUB Water Department. So they were skilled labor, they worked for a pretty long time. But during that time, Singapore also had a lot of what we call upset things like trade union disputes, and as well as racial riots and all that. But despite all that, the Malayali community was so integrated. They get together as and when they have opportunity to exchange some of their news from Kerala, whether it's from Trivandrum, Cochin, Wattapalam. They exchange and they share. And because they are so far away, and those days there is no phone, there is no computers, they use airmail letters. They use airmail letters to write, and when they get a letter, they will all gather in my house. And they will all come, about 6, 7 of them, or maybe sometimes 10 of them, sit down, and they will read the letter, what are some of the situations taking place in Kerala. That is the only kind of a hope that they had. So while they were working, some of them got married in Singapore, and the Malayali community slowly expanded. When they were expanding, their children were all locally born. But at that time in Singapore, The official languages was only four: English, Malay, Tamil and Mandarin. Despite that, the community was so close to one another. Besides the school time, they tend to speak Malayalam within the family. So that helped to maintain the language component within the Malayali community. Then later, my father, in our home at that time, when my father was promoted and we went to Jalan Besar to stay, we had a bigger home. And many of those Malayalis who have been working in water department and PUB, who knows my father very well, who come from same villages and all that, got together and exchanged, and they maintained the good friendship for a very long time. And during the process, the wages were not very high. So what happens is, many of them decided that because there wasn't many banks that were keen to open up savings account. So the group of Malayali workers, together with my father, they all decided that I think we have to create our own savings. And so each one contributes some money every month, and at the end of each month, for the period of 12 months or 15 months, depending on the number of friends who are involved, will collect a sum of money that will be useful for them, for their families and so on and so forth in India. Some of them, because they already settled here, the children are grown up. During this period of time, my mother during Onam festival will make sure that it is specially done, because most of his friends, my father's friends from the community will come. At the same time, she will also introduce some of the Malayali dishes. And as you know, the Malayali dishes has got a major component is coconut. And that makes a major difference to many of the other diet that they use. That's quite extensively they use, and they use a lot of clay pots which help them to maintain the traditional taste of the Malayali food. For my university education, completed my university education, and at that time job market was also very difficult. So I finished my studies and I was working for, in fact, People's Association as a youth officer, and that was during the period of time where I was heavily engaged in social and political work, and social and political work that helps me to have a better understanding of the ground during Mr. What we call Mannon's time. So the entire thing that my parents, who nurtured us with the values that he got from Kerala, the values that he carried across, that made us to become quite firm, stable and positive in our life in going forward. So that helped us to transform the way that the character we are supposed to develop. So